Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Reza, your host today. While loops are similar to for loops. The only difference is, instead of the three different parts that we had in a for loop, while loop only have the condition part. We put the keyword while, and inside here, some condition. For example, in this case, I want to replicate the for loop that we had in the previous video. So in this case, the condition would be I less than 5. And then the body of the code. The body of the code will continue running until I is less than 5. This is the for loop we had in the previous episode. What we want to do, we wanted to replicate it using while loop. And here's the while loop. As you can see, Visual Studio has an error here. Identifier I is undefined. Because we defined I here in the scope of for loop. So after the for loop, C doesn't recognize the variable I because variable I was something that declared and destroyed inside the for loop. So here, let me make a comment here. This is the while loop. Here I need to declare I and initialize it because it has to have a value first. Then in the body of the code, I will copy paste the printf function. So now this code, if I compile and run the code, you see that it's keep printing hello world. And the reason is this condition is always true. Why? So let's follow the code. I set I equal to 0 and then while I less than 5. Let's actually debug this code to see why this loop is being repeated forever. So if I start debugging this code at line 13, if I step over line 13, you see that because of line 12, I is 0. And if the condition is true, I'll be going to the body of the while loop. And it's happening. So on line 15, the hello world will be printed. If I step over, we're going to the end of the while loop. And if I step over, we're going back to the while loop, checking the condition again. As you can see, I is not changing in this way in the body of the code. So I will always stay at 0. As you can see in the local window, I will always stay at 0. So this condition will always be true. It means that we have an infinite loop. That's a kind of a logical error in your code. So it's not an error that compiler would tell you, but you would see that error in your program. You would see that this is not the result that you were looking for. By debugging, we understood that there's a problem with I, and we need to increment I. In for loop, we incremented I here. Let me bring that back to 1. In for loop, we incremented I here. Now, I increment I here. So I plus plus means I equal to I plus 1. I'll add it here, so my while loop now should be working. If I restart debugging, so you'd see that I is 0, and after the first printf, I plus plus, after I plus plus, you see that the value of I in the local window is changed to 1. And if I continue, the value will change to 2, and the value will change to 3, 4, and when the value reaches 5, the condition will be wrong, and we will be, if I step over this line, we will be going to the return 0 statement. And as you can see. Okay, so let's look at the output. So we have 10 hello words. So let me put a printf statement here so we can find the difference between the output of the for loop and the output of the while loop. So for your start debugging, actually let's run without debugging. Control F5, and as you can see, we have 5 hello words printed from the for loop and 5 hello words printing from the while loop. So this is the while loop equivalent to the for loop we had here. If you ask me when to use while loop or for loop, there is not a straight answer to this question. You pretty much can use them instead of each other, but the convention is to use for loop when you know the number of the items that you are going to loop through. Basically, you know the size. But while loop, we're using it when the condition changes in the code. For example, you're writing CAD software. You're watching the user inputting different comments, and then you change the perspective window based on users' changes. But you should watch if the user click on quit, the condition will change, or a break statement will be executed, and you will get you will exit that while loop. This concludes our video regarding while loop. Thank you guys for watching. Please consider liking or subscribing to the channel, and thank you for watching. As always, let me know if you have any comment. See you in the next lecture. Have a good one.